Hello, this is Jordan, and this is your precious metals video market update. This video is being recorded on the late evening of Sunday, February 23rd, 2020. And in this video, I'm going to discuss the current technical outlook for precious metals with extra focus on silver in the gold stocks. So let me get gold out of the way first. And this chart I have here is the quarterly candle chart. Now, the quarter doesn't close until the end of March. So a lot can change over the next 5 weeks or so. So it's presumptuous for me to show this and say that gold is going to close the quarter above the 1575 to 1600 resistance. But it's certainly going to make a monthly close above that level. I mean, it would need a big reversal this week not to do that. But the point is, if this recent strength holds above 1575, 1600, that is very significant because if you look at the quarterly chart, the second highest quarterly close ever is 1674. Now, looking at the quarterly chart, I see some resistance at 1700 and some at 1800. So the point is, if, as time goes by and later this year, if gold can make some monthly and quarterly closes up there, close to 1700 or even above 1700, it's really not that far from testing 1900 or even breaking above it. And interestingly, that 1674, which is the second highest quarterly close ever, that came in the fourth quarter and is actually the highest yearly close ever. So if gold managed to close this year at 1700, that would be the highest annual close ever, even though gold would still have a couple $100 to go to get to that new all-time high. So keep an eye on the monthly and in the quarterly charts especially, because if gold starts taking out key levels, before it does it, on the monthly, weekly, daily charts, that's more significant. So the first things first, let's see gold, close the month, close the quarter above 1600. That would be a very good sign. And judging from this chart, it would imply we're probably going to see more upside. Now, on a shorter term basis, there's two targets pointing to 1700. I know we're almost there, but the recent cup and handle consolidation of the last couple months, that projects to 1700. And also the big breakout that we had in 2019 above 1375, the measured upside target from that is 1700. So look for gold to test 1700 very soon. I mean, it's almost there, frankly. Now, next, gold is in real terms, I mean, especially against foreign currencies, gold is just surging. My gold against foreign currencies basket is actually 13% above its all-time high in 2011. Now, if you were applying that to the US dollar gold price, the equivalent of that would be above 2100. And, as I pointed out in a video last week, and I've pointed out in my past videos, gold against foreign currencies, that's often a leading indicator. A handful of times over the last 20, 25 years, when that made a new all-time high, gold usually followed in dollars. So that's already made a new all-time high. So, I mean, that's another reason to think gold is close to going to 1900 and going above it. But one thing to keep an eye on, I always harp on this, is how is gold and gold stocks, how are they performing against the stock market? Because they haven't broken downtrends yet. Now, my chart for the year, you can look, it's the bottom of this image. That's GDX against the S&P 500. Note the double bottom in 2015 and late 2018, early 2019. It really looks the same regardless of what gold stock index you're looking at. That double bottom is basically the lowest in 90 years as far as gold stocks divided by the stock market. And that thick red line there, that horizontal line, right around 0.011, we need to see that ratio break to the upside. Just like in the gold against the S&P, we want to break above that red line. So these are intermarket things to keep in mind. But the reality is, if we see these ratios breaking above those red lines, then you're going to see another wave of momentum come into this market. As those ratios, if they break above those lines, that signals that capital is moving away from stocks and into precious metals. We haven't really seen that yet. I mean, we've had capital really going into everything now almost. So this is really the last thing. I don't know if we need it immediately to continue to move higher, but what I'm pointing out here is if and when we see these ratios break those resistance levels, then there's really nothing that can hold precious metals back. Okay, now let's look at silver. This is a monthly candle chart, and that thick line going across, that horizontal line, that's around 1850. So 1850, whether you look at the daily, the weekly, or the monthly chart, maybe even the quarterly chart too, I don't recall it, it's a very, very significant level. So the key is this week, the close on Friday, that will be the close for the month. We want to see silver close above 1850. So that's probably the biggest thing I'm watching this week. I want to see, I'll say it again for the third time, I want to see silver close above 1850. Because if it does, then we are going to see, I'll just hold that thought for a second, but, there's a bit of trend line resistance connecting the 14 high and the 16 high and the 19 high. That comes into play just below the 2019 high, which I believe is around 1950. So there's a little bit of resistance there, but, this is a daily look with the silver COT at the bottom. And if you look at the top chart, what I highlighted there, the action in silver since the peak late last year, it has been the technical term for this is a continuation head and shoulders pattern. Now, you don't see continuation head and shoulders patterns that much. One of the most famous ones was if you look at gold from 2008 to 2009, that correction it had during the financial crisis. That was a continuation head and shoulders pattern. Now, we've seen the same thing here with silver. The measured upside target for that pattern projects to about 2050, which is, that's like 1% below the 2016 peak. I have the arrow there, which I think is about 2070. So basically, we should see on this move silver reach that 2016 high at 2070, but you can see the trend line there. There is some trend line resistance, and that comes into play, right around or a little bit below the 1950 peak. So you could see a pause there, maybe a tiny bit of a correction. But basically, when we're looking at silver, if we're looking out, over the next, let's say, roughly 6 months or so, the key levels, first 1850. Let's get a monthly close above that. In addition to that, it's the 2016 high just below 21. So 1850, and then let's round up and call it 21. Those are really the key levels. If you look at a monthly or a quarterly chart, those will tell you the key closes that we need above 21 or 2070, whatever it is. But when we surpass that resistance around 21, that's when silver is going to have basically almost no resistance until 24, and then a little resistance up to 27 or 28. So, and there's a measured upside target here. If and when we see silver surpass that 2016 high, there's a measured upside target up to roughly 27. So, I always talk about the breakout in the gold stocks, which I love, and we're going to get to that right now. But also don't forget about silver, because silver also is it's a little bit behind the gold stocks, but it's also has a great shot to make a very significant breakout. And as we see here, GDX actually broke to a 6.5-year high on a weekly close. Now it's like 10 cents away as far as a daily close from making that 6.5-year high. But look, guys, if you've been watching my videos, I've been talking about these bases for months and months, and almost in every video, and we're basically right there. Look at GDX, but GDX is ready to, I don't know if it's going to be in the next day or two or the next week or two or whenever. I don't have a crystal ball, but these super bullish patterns here are playing out. Let me go to GDXJ at the bottom. That's already at 45. It broke above 42 and 43, which going back to 2014 was very significant resistance. Now, GDXJ formed a small cup and handle, and the upside projection for that is about 50. That happens to be the 2016 high. Now, the cup and handle for GDX is not quite as strong because GDXJ has been leading, but that projects to about 35. So my near-term targets for GDX and GDXJ would be 35 for GDX and 50 for GDXJ. And then eventually the major breakout targets here are for GDX close to 50 and for GDXJ close to 83 or so. But ultimately, it appears that we're in a bull market. We'll get confirmation of that hopefully shortly when silver confirms that it's broken above 1850 by making that monthly close. And GDX and GDXJ, surpassing these resistance levels, which they're about to do. Last point I'll make is that, there's a question of, I hold some stocks that are underperforming or they're lagging, or, when is money going to flow into all the juniors? My guess on that, I think that when we see, there's going to be two stages of that. Number one, it could be when GDX breaks above 31. It's just about there. It could happen this week. But the other stage could be when we see GDXJ breaking above 50, which we're not quite there yet because GDXJ in the bigger picture has been lagging. But my thinking is when we see GDXJ breaking above 50, that could be when capital really starts to come into the sector. It starts to flow everywhere. It flows to the juniors that are undervalued and haven't moved yet. It'll even flow into the turds. Because in a bull market, turds can fly. Don't forget that. But with all that being said, this is it. We've been talking about this for a long time. I didn't think it would happen this soon this year. I thought it'd be more around the middle of the year, but here it is, guys. This is time to make some great gains and potentially a shitload of money in the coming months and maybe over the next 18 to 24 months. We'll evaluate that in the weeks and months to come. But this is it. This is the time. The gold stocks, silver stocks, they're ready for some. What looks to be potentially some really, really fantastic gains over the coming months and quarters. And look, if you're interested in getting some help, getting some guidance, and wondering which particular juniors really have the most upside potential, or have the best fundamental qualities, or are the best values, that's the work that I do, my premium service. You can find it at thedailygold.com. It's a highly affordable service. We'd love to have you on board. That's at thedailygold.com/premium. And look, guys, there's still things out there that have not moved yet. Don't think it's too late to get in, because there's still, this, I don't mean to sound like a high-pressure salesman, but as far as reading the market, if you wait a couple weeks or a month or two and GDXJ is trading past 50, the values that are there today, those juniors, they might be 50, 70%, even some might be 100% higher in a month or two. So, if you've been waiting and thinking about getting in this sector and you've had cold feet, this is really the time to get serious about it and get into the market, because it's set up for some fantastic gains. I thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out my work at thedailygold.com. We have a lot of free stuff. Consider my premium service at thedailygold.com/premium. Thanks again, guys, and I look forward to doing another video for you in the days and weeks to come.